The wind on the Montana plains that morning felt wrong, hollow, sharp, almost whispering of something about to change. Luke Harper, a quiet cowboy with more scars than friends, pushed open the barn doors and let the sun spill across the hay-stacked floor. Life on the frontier was simple for him. Fix the fences, tend the horses, keep to himself. Ever since he lost his family in a winter fever 2 years back, silence had become his only companion. But that morning, as he saddled his chestnut stallion Ranger, he noticed something unusual: tracks. Not the clean, deep marks of ranch boots, but light, staggered footprints. Someone barely strong enough to stand had walked across his land. The prints wavered, like someone had been fighting the wind or starvation. With a low breath, Luke mounted Ranger and followed the trail past the wheat field, across the dry creek bed, and toward the rocky ridge at the back of his property. The closer he came, the more he sensed it, something fragile, something desperate. Just beyond a fallen cedar, he found him, a young native man collapsed on the ground, ribs showing through his skin, lips cracked like desert stone. His clothes were torn, his breathing shallow. Beside him lay a broken bow and an empty water skin. Luke dismounted slowly, raising his hand so the stranger wouldn't feel threatened. "Easy, friend. I ain't here to hurt you." The young man tried to lift his head, but the effort nearly made him faint. Luke knelt, slid an arm under his shoulders, and gently lifted him. He was shockingly light, too light. Someone had abandoned him, or he had fled from something dangerous. Luke didn't ask questions. He simply carried him onto Ranger and rode back toward the ranch with the stranger, leaning against him like a dying ember, clinging to the last bit of warmth. Back at the barn, Luke laid him on a bed of hay, grabbed water, stew, and blankets. "Drink slow," Luke warned as he held the man's head up. The stranger obeyed, but even that simple act brought tears of relief to his eyes. After a long moment, he whispered his name. "Tawan!" His voice trembled like he hadn't spoken in days. As Tawan ate, Luke noticed something strange. This young man wasn't just hungry. He carried fear in his eyes, deep fear. The kind a man only has when he's seen death too closely. When Luke finally asked what happened, Tawan hesitated. "Hunted," he whispered. "Chased by spirits wearing man's skin. Raiders. They burned our hunting camp." His hands shook. "My brother, my mother." His voice broke into silence. Luke felt something burn in his chest. He didn't have a family anymore, but he remembered what it felt like to lose them. He placed a firm hand on Tawan's shoulder. "You're safe here." For hours, Luke tended to him, cleaning his wounds, feeding him, letting him rest. As the sun dipped below the hills and painted the sky in gold, Luke stepped outside to fetch more firewood. The evening was quiet, too quiet. Even the birds had gone silent. Chill crawled up Luke's spine. The same instinct that had saved him through countless bar fights, cattle stampedes, and dust storms. Something was watching, something big. He turned slowly and froze. Across the field, where the wheat met the twilight, silhouettes appeared, one, then 10, then dozens, moving with discipline, forming lines, holding spears, shields, and painted bows. Warriors, not 10, not 20, but 200. Their feathers shimmered in the dying light. Their horses stomped the ground in unison. Their faces were painted for war. Luke's breath left his lungs. He had helped one starving stranger. And now 200 fully armed, native warriors stood outside his barn like a silent thunderstorm waiting to break. As the warriors fanned out in a massive crescent around his land, the one in the center stepped forward, a tall, imposing figure with a wolf-skin mantle draped across his shoulders. His eyes burned with authority, the kind that spoke of leadership and vengeance. He raised his spear toward Luke. "You have our blood inside your barn." Luke swallowed hard. "He ain't hurt. I was helping him." A cold silence settled. The leader tilted his head. "Why?" That one word felt heavier than any bullet. Why would a cowboy, alone, weary, grieving, help a stranger from a tribe feared by many settlers? Luke glanced back at the barn, at the boy he had saved. He didn't know how to explain it. He just said the only truth that mattered. Because he needed someone. For a moment, the warriors didn't move. The wind didn't move. Even the sky seemed to hold its breath. Then the leader lowered his spear. "Bring the boy out," he commanded. His fate will decide your own. Luke's pulse hammered. He had no idea what would happen next. Saving a starving man was one thing, but facing 200 warriors outside, his barn was something no cowboy could prepare for. Still, with steady steps, he walked toward the barn door, knowing that when he opened it, his life might change forever. Luke stepped inside the barn, and Tawan struggled to sit up. His breath caught when he heard the drums of hooves, distant but unmistakable.
"They came for me," he whispered, fear tightening his jaw.
Luke helped him stand. "You ready to face them?" Tawan hesitated. "If they think I fled danger, they may think I'm a coward." Luke shook his head. "Don't matter what they think. You survived. That ain't cowardly." With slow steps, they walked out together. The warriors shifted as they appeared, palms tightening on weapons, painted faces hardening with suspicion. The tall leader dismounted and approached, eyes sharp, unreadable. Tawan lowered his head respectfully. "Great Chief Akacheta," he said softly. I failed the hunt. Raiders attacked. I fled to warn the tribe, but collapsed," he swallowed. "This man saved me." The warriors murmured among themselves, but Akacheta raised his hand for silence. His gaze shifted to Luke. "You helped a man who is not of your—" He asked again, more serious than before. Luke sighed, wiping dirt from his hands. "Loss recognizes loss," he said. "He looked the way I did when I lost my family. No man should die alone if someone can stop it." Akacheta stared at him, unreadable. Then something softened in his expression, barely, like a distant cloud parting for a moment of sun. "You speak truth, and truth carries weight." He turned to his warriors. "This cowboy saved one of our sons, not for reward, not for favor, but from the goodness of his heart." He paused. "We honor that." To Luke's shock, the warriors struck there, spears to the ground in a unified thud that echoed across the plains like thunder. Akacheta stepped closer, extending his hand. "You are now a friend of the Wolf Creek tribe," the chief said. "Any enemy of yours will face 200 warriors before touching your land." Luke blinked, stunned. He had expected anger, suspicion, maybe even death. Instead, he had been given something he hadn't felt in years: respect, belonging, family. Tawan stepped forward and placed a braided leather band in Luke's hand. "A token of honor," he said. "You gave me back my life. Now we share breath as brothers." Luke felt something he thought he had buried forever: warmth, connection, a spark of hope. The silence of his ranch, once heavy with loneliness, suddenly felt full, alive. Akacheta mounted his horse and raised his spear. "Cowboy Harper," he called, "your courage will be sung in our campfires." As the 200 warriors turned and rode into the horizon, leaving a trail of thunder behind them, Luke stood in the fading sunlight with Tawan, feeling the shift in his world. He had started the morning alone, just a cowboy on an empty ranch. Now he had 200 warriors as allies, a tribe as family, and a future no longer built on grief but on purpose.